Now that it's been a few weeks since Volume 6 has ended, people have had time to reflect on the events of the volume and figure out how exactly they feel about it, I think it's about time we go over one of the most controversial things that did happen. Adam's death. Now this is something that I myself, as well as probably a few others, were able to predict from very early on in the volume, that Adam wasn't living to the end of it. But regardless of whether it's predictable or not, it still caused a lot of split opinions. There was groups of people saying, good riddance. He had it coming. He deserved what happened to him. Then there was a lot of other people saying that Volume 6 absolutely wasted his character, turned him into something completely different than what he has been up until this point, and especially with the reveal of the SDC scar, giving hope for a backstory of his character, more so than what the character short gave us, as well as proposing some other plot points later on in the volume, only to kill him off the next episode. So I can easily see where they're coming from, saying it's a waste, but I would disagree. I don't think his character has been wasted at all. At least not yet. But I'll get to that. First we need to go through and see how Adam's character has developed throughout the RWBY series. Now, Adam was one of the very first characters ever introduced into the RWBY series. Shown alongside Blake in the Black trailer, he was introduced even before Yang, one of the main 4 characters of this series in general. So even though he wasn't shown for the first couple volumes, he was always in the back of our minds as some calm, collected, and extremely powerful individual. In fact, for the first 3 volumes, he was probably the strongest person that we knew of, at least until the Maidens were introduced and Salem was revealed, etc. But from the Black trailer, we were able to get a small sense of his character, as well as learn about his disregard for human life. All he cared about was finishing the mission, dealing a blow against those who were oppressing the Faunus, which in his mind was all of humanity, not caring whether the humans on the train lived or died, and this only further progressed as the series continued. When it came to Volume 3, he was coerced by Cinder into, or kind of forced by Cinder into, helping her attack Beacon Academy, which although he didn't like the idea of working alongside humans, I'm sure he'd jump at the chance to deal such a heavy blow to humanity itself by taking out one of the 4 major schools in the entire world, not to mention the cross-continental communication system. So yeah, his hatred for humanity just progressed to the point where he was actively attacking that settlement and dealing such a heavy blow to humanity. And when it came to Volume 4, Volume 5, he had so much support and wanted to deal such heavy blows to humanity that he decided to kill Sienna Khan, take over the White Fang, to lead it in an even more radical direction towards actually attacking human settlements that had nothing to do with oppressing the Faunus. In fact, the Huntsman schools were willing to accept Faunus just as much as humans, so they didn't have any of the discrimination, yet he wanted to deal such blows towards them. And Sienna disagreed with him, so she got killed for it. And that's what led to the end of Volume 5, where he did attack Haven Academy. He brought the White Fang there, along with Salem's faction, and wanted to take out the school. He let his rage consume him, and this is where a lot of people say that his character ended up being ruined because Blake one-shot him at the end of Volume 5, which, no, he didn't. Or no, she didn't. She got one hit in on him. He was at the point where everything was falling apart. The White Fang members were not standing alongside him. The Faunus, all of Menagerie pretty much, had just shown up to oppose what he was fighting for. And he probably thought at that point that he had most of the Faunus ideals behind him, or at least most of the Faunus supporting him. And that just turned on its head. Not to mention, he saw that the faction he was fighting alongside kind of abandoned him. Hazel said, "This is your problem, you deal with it. I have something else to deal with inside." So he pretty much just said, "You're on your own." And with that, Adam kind of gave in to his rage as he saw Blake as the reason that everyone showed up, that his plans were going awry. So yes, he lunged at her out of pure emotion, not calm and collected anymore. Completely understandable, and Blake took that opportunity, dodged to the side, and gave him one hit on the back. Yeah, that dropped him to his knees, but that was more of a moral defeat in my mind, she definitely didn't defeat him in combat by any means, because his aura wasn't even broken. He didn't even seem fazed by it. He was just knocked off balance because he lunged so far forward with his sword. So, yeah. Even afterwards, when the White Fang was arrested and put down all their weapons, and he realized he was alone and completely outmatched, and took off trying to lure Blake and Sun away, Blake was just like, yeah, we're no match for him, just let him go. And then that led to Volume 6, where he turned into the angry ex-boyfriend, as a lot of people say. And then, of course, that leading to his ultimate death as he stalked Blake and Yang and the entire team throughout the entire volume, leading to his confrontation at the end of the volume, and then dying. Well, he's not the angry ex-boyfriend. I'm sorry, but that's just not the case, at least in my opinion. He held such anger towards humanity throughout this entire series. We saw in the character short at the beginning of Volume 6 how he evolved to this point. He started off just as a member of the White Fang, trying to make a difference, trying to make a change for the Faunus. And eventually that led to the point where there was armed conflict against humans, when humans were attacking the Faunus brigade or the convoy that they had, and Adam was forced to kill a human to protect Gira. We already saw that he enjoyed fighting humans and dealing out some pain towards them, but up to that point, I don't think he had ever killed them. But this time, he flat out killed someone to protect Gira. It was an honorable, or no, maybe not honorable, but it was a reasonable choice that he made. And although Gira said, you know, you shouldn't have killed him, if it looked like Gira's aura was broken, so the human might have killed Gira, etc., it was a situation that, you know, it's understandable to some extent why he did what he did. And people praised him for it. He was, you could see it in his face, he was kind of shocked that people were just like, oh, like, we're pushing him up, we're praising him for killing a human, and he was surprised. He was shocked that people were supporting that, and that fed into his anger towards humanity. He could not only hurt them in a financial or political sense by taking back things as part of the White Fang, but he could also physically hurt them and physically kill them in that extent, and that's what he started progressing towards. He started enjoying killing humanity, feeling like he was inflicting some pain back towards them, and that just further led to where it became throughout the series. Although he was a calm, collected individual at the beginning when he was first introduced, which I've also seen people say, well, this was Montium's character, some calm, collected, and powerful person, and then he just became some person consumed by rage, then became the angry ex-boyfriend. No, he was always consumed by rage, but he was just very driven. In the first 3 volumes, he was very calm, collected, and driven. He was part of the White Fang. He felt that people were supporting him, that there was no one really going against him. Yeah, Blake was someone who abandoned him, and it really hurt him, but when he went on, his hatred for humanity was his main drive. In Volume 3, when he confronted Blake and Yang, frankly, Blake and Yang should have died if Adam really wanted to kill them at that point. If he was really the angry ex-boyfriend, which people don't really say he was at the end of Volume 3, but there was no reason that Blake and Yang should have escaped him. But that wasn't his goal. His goal was to take out Beacon, deal that blow against humanity. And that was his goal through Volume 4 and Volume 5. He was dealing another blow by taking out Haven Academy, and that was his entire plan. But once it fell apart, he blamed Blake for that, because Blake brought all of Menagerie there, which ended in his defeat, because they brought all the Faunus and alerted the cops, and was the reason the White Fang did not succeed at that point. So that's why Adam fixated on her. All of his hatred towards humanity, he had the means to deal those blows, to do something against humanity up until that point. And then it was all taken away by Blake. So all that hatred that he had towards humanity was shifted towards her. It's not that he well, he did kind of focus on the fact that Blake hurt him, that Blake left him, that it's her fault that everything went the way it did. And to a lot of an extent, it was because she brought everyone to Haven Academy and stopped him. But he let his emotions and his hatred for humanity transfer over to Blake. Not saying that he didn't hate humanity anymore, of course he still did, but he just no longer had the means to do it, and so as a last-ditch effort, he decided to try to get back at Blake by killing her and eventually killing Yang as well. That's what his plan was, at least. And we learned at the end of Volume 6 that he had the SDC scar revealed. Now, having him killed off the next episode, in my opinion, seems the situation kind of demanded it. When you're in such a battle of life and death like that, you know that someone is coming after you, trying to kill you with everything that they have, as Adam was trying to do to Blake and Yang. He had his weapon thrown away and he was reaching for the shard of Gamble Shroud, the knife to kill Blake and Yang. If he got that knife, that's exactly what would have happened. And yes, you could argue Yang could have punched him in the back of the head and knocked him out, but what would have happened if that one punch was not enough to knock him out? What if that didn't bring him down? What if? When you're in that kind of situation, adrenaline is high. You see, or at least in Yang's opinion, he's running towards Blake, trying to reach for this knife to kill someone that you love. Well, you'd grab that and try to grab the other part of Gamble Shroud, can't speak today, and try to protect that person at all costs. And that's why it seemed necessary in that moment that they'd stab him. That was going to stop him. Anything else, I don't know if that would have stopped him. They didn't know if that would have stopped him. And also that just seemed like when your adrenaline's high, that's what you just grab and do. Afterwards, Blake may have had regrets about that. She was definitely distraught at Adam dying. And yes, there is a lot that needs to be expanded upon with the SDC scar. But the thing is, Blake and Yang have seen that scar. So, in the coming volume, that is what is going to determine whether Adam's character was actually a waste or not. Up until this point, I don't think it was. In the next volume, though, if that is not addressed, then they will have completely wasted it, and there would have been no point in showing that scar whatsoever, because it's just going to create a lot of questions and a lot of complaints towards Rooster Teeth for showing that and not doing anything with it. Now that we're going to go to Atlas, the Schnee Dust Company, we had better get some answers. Not to mention, Blake and Yang better have to deal with this, because this is the first time that anyone has straight up killed someone. At least any of the students have straight up killed someone, because Blake was looking into Adam's eyes pretty much as he died. She stabbed him through the chest and was face to face with him when he died. That's going to leave some mental trauma, and that needs to be addressed. At the end of Volume 6, Blake and Yang just kind of showed up out of the forest and didn't really seem all that fazed, but adrenaline was still pumping. I'm going to give them the benefit of the doubt. Hopefully that is dealt with next volume. If it's not, as I mentioned, that is going to be a huge waste. But since we're going to Atlas, the Schnee Dust Company, and not to mention if Blake and Yang even just talk to Weiss, that will hopefully get some insight on some things. I know Weiss probably doesn't know anything about any slavery or anything of that sort, but that would give her reason to confront her father, potentially retake over the company from him or something along those lines. Volume 7 is going to be the one that determines Adam's character. And as for whether Adam is actually dead or not, because that's another, well, I guess it's not really too much of a concern for a lot of people, as it's pretty obvious that he is dead, because he got 2 blades through the chest, not to mention falling off the cliff, hitting that rock, and then going into the water, which is probably freezing cold as well. It's not out of the realm of possibility that he survives. I mean, we've seen Ironwood and his mechanical body, so if someone got to him fast enough, I suppose it's possible that he could be saved. But even in the RWBY Rewind of the final volume, Carey kind of confirmed-ish that he was dead. I mean, he said, yeah, Adam's pretty much dead, but moments after that, he also said, why exactly would we confirm whether someone's dead or alive? That would just ruin the surprise of any reveal that was going to happen in any later volumes, which of course makes sense. So I'm going to assume that he's dead. I'm not going to be too surprised if he shows up again, but we better get a backstory. We better get someone in Atlas who either knew Adam as a child and help him escape the slavery from the SDC and recount the events that led to Adam becoming what he is, or something along those lines. Because Adam had to escape somehow. And I'm not going to be surprised if there are some people in Atlas who don't like how Faunus are discriminated in Atlas by the higher-ups, that they see them as nothing but slaves or lesser beings or something of that sort, that they would actually help Faunus escape slavery and escape the country. And I'm guessing that's how Adam got out, because if you're branded like that, you're probably considered property of the SDC, at least by the SDC themselves, so they wouldn't want to let you go. Not to mention bad publicity if that got public. So yeah, I'm interested to see how everything comes out in Volume 7, but as of right now, I don't consider Adam's character a waste. It seems like a logical progression for his character to have his hatred evolve throughout the series, and then when everything stops and he loses all of the power that he has to actually deal any damage towards humanity, that anger transfer over to Blake, that he switch his focus to the person that ruined it all for him. But let me know what you guys think, if you guys agree with this entire discussion of Adam, or if you guys have some other opinions on whether Adam's character has been wasted, or if there's lost potential, things that I may have missed throughout the series, or something along those lines. Let me know down in the comments below. I look forward to discussing with you, and as I'm sure all of you are, we'll all look forward to Volume 6 or Volume 7 together. So make sure to subscribe if you guys haven't already. Hope you guys liked the video, and I'll see you in the next one.